welcome to the Mummy Movement podcast with me, Sam Sardette, and all we're talking about mum life, the highs, the lows, relatable stuff, and just having a laugh. And today I have the lovely Ella,
hello,
aka Crazy New Mama. You are a mummy Instagrammer, wife, mummy, obviously, and a recent veterinarian nurse vet.
Yeah, just finished that.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll kind of like start, I suppose, from the beginning. And I mean, recently you've given up being a vet to do this full time, like being on Instagram full time. So how did you? I mean, starting from the beginning of that, how did you start your Instagram, and like what made you go into it?
Well, I was on holiday and she's my first, she was 4 months old, and I had, this is really random, my sister took a picture of me breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, my whole life was breastfeeding. It was my first ever time,
Oh,
you know,
really?
like,
Yeah.
and I also found motherhood quite hard, like the first few months with Maya, for years for my second, but for the first few months with Maya I found really hard, and I didn't really see anyone on social media that was finding it hard. So then I got this picture and I loved it, and I said to my sister, I was like, I want to put that online. And I was like, but it feels weird to put it on like a personal account. Do you know what I mean? Because it was like all my mates that I go out with, like, do you know what I mean? I just felt weird.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, why don't you start one? And that was literally where it started from. Because then I thought, well, you know what, I will. Because I'll just do really honest, like, motherhood.
Yeah.
And just, like, real life. Like, just average life. And then breastfeeding alongside of it. And that was how it started. It started off with quite a lot of, like, factual stuff as well, like tips. It's nothing like that now. It's changed so much.
Yeah. So what was it? How many? Like, that was a few years ago, and your little ones now. So
she's 6. So I've been doing it for 6 years this month.
Yeah.
It's been actually ages.
I know.
And then my youngest he's a boy, and he is 4.
4, 6, and 4. Yeah. So my eldest is 6, and then I've got 3.
Yeah,
so
you've
similar.
Got 3, haven't you?
Yeah. But so obviously you've done your Instagram. So last year, I mean, I think that is amazing though, that you do keep it real, and I think that's why a lot of people do like you, and I think it's so important, especially as a mum, to show the real, just like, this is motherhood. Like, there's, you know, I hate going on there and thinking, oh my god, because it's like, you just compare yourself sometimes, don't you, as a mum? Am I doing that right? Am I doing this right? So it's so refreshing and nice to see when you've got a mum that's just keeps it real, and it's nice, and you don't feel so isolated. So you've had your Instagram, and then last year you done your whole, if I get to 100k, my fella will take me to Disney. Is he going to hold up that into the bargain?
He is. We're going, I think we was going to go for Christmas, and then I just thought, like, actually for Christmas, and then I was just like, I feel like it's just going to be a lot. You know, I was a bit overwhelmed by it. And then the kids have got a week off outside of term time in June. So we're going to go then, because I feel like it should hopefully be a bit quieter. If Disney's ever quiet.
And nicer weather. Well,
nicer weather.
Yeah.
It will
Are you
be
going to
cold.
go Paris one?
Just Paris, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the Paris one, I've been even in February, and it is colder than London. Like,
really?
It gets so cold.
Fred hates being cold as well, and he's always like, my legs hurt. So I just think that's
why
I think it needs to be warm.
yeah, definitely. So this year, you've now gone into doing this full time, which is amazing. And do you feel like as well so your videos, obviously, they crack me up, and it's like very like real life, keeping it real, like showing someone doing something amazing and actually what actually does happen. And obviously, do you feel like that's your little niche now, because you do it so well, like you do it, like you keep it so real?
I think where I am, like, I'm just one of them people that, you know, like, everything happens to, like, dramatic stuff. So I feel like when I see videos where people's lives are perfect, I'm like, no, hang on a minute. That is not real life. It could be for some people, but for me, like, it's like, I feel like I could actually write a book on my life, because it's just so dramatic.
Oh,
always.
really?
Always.
Really? No, I know.
Like,
I mean, obviously it's going to be great to have that around, flexible around the kids now. I suppose you're going to adapt. But like this year's, they're like, you know, you're doing Disney and everything. And is that kind of your plan now, to really push with sort of carrying on doing what you're doing this year? Like, what are your plans this year with it?
So this year, like, everyone loves my mum. Like, everyone loves my mum. I feel like she should have her own Instagram page, but she's not up for it. So she just comes on mine. So we're going to start a podcast together. So that's one of my big plans.
Yeah.
We've got quite a few holidays coming up this year, which we've been really fortunate to like work with like an amazing holiday brand. So we've got like a few good deals and stuff to show people, like family holidays and stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, I feel like I just like to see where things go.
Yeah.
Like, I know you have to plan ahead, but I do just kind of just see what will be, but obviously put effort in.
Yeah, I think that's it. There's a fine line, isn't it? It's like not to lose yourself in it and I think if you're keeping yourself on there, that's what people buy into, isn't it? Keeping it real or not.
And it is literally just me. Like,
yeah.
That is my personality.
That's what I love about your page, though, because it's like, no, it's not fake, and it's not like you're putting that on Instagram, but in reality it's like, oh my God, like that's what I obviously personally relate with, apart from the fact that I can't itch underneath my boob because I don't have any. Yeah, I'm like, what is that about? I wish I had that problem.
I feel like it is for big boobs. I think because they're just massive, they're just like get in the way.
Yeah,
they just rub.
I wish I had that problem, and honestly, so obviously with mum life. I mean, you've grown this Instagram, which is amazing. Mum life. So like, talk to me. Like, did you plan your kids? Like, how was your, did you know you always wanted to be a mum?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a mum. My mum's like a really mummy mum. Do you know what I mean? So I always wanted to be like her, like as a mum. I wouldn't say I'm 100% like her. I do get stressed quite easily. That's like my dad.
You've got to have a mix of both. At least you know he's your dad.
A combination.
yeah.
So yeah, always wanted to be a mum. But when we did have children, so I actually wanted to wait for like another year, but then Tom's brother passed suddenly, and he was an older brother. And I think when you have such a traumatic thing happen with someone young, you kind of puts your life in perspective. And I was kind of like, okay, no, because he wanted one, and I was like, no, we've just moved out, like literally just bought our own flat.
Did you get married? Are you married?
No, we got married after both the kids, so out of wedlock.
I know. Oh, God forbid. I know.
So we had Maya, and I generally believe she was actually a gift from him, because it was like, it sounds really weird, but like the way it happened was like, even though we knew we was going to try, it was so quick, and it all happened around the time of him passing. And they say that when one goes, another comes, and I feel like I know not everyone believes in this sort of stuff, but I feel like his brother knew that he needed something to focus on, because like, it's such a big loss losing a sibling.
I really believe in stuff like that, like massively, and that is so nice. And because obviously if he wanted to have her as well. So sort of birth story wise, how was it? Like, what was your birth like with your first?
I really wanted a home birth. I'd done hypnotherapy, and I absolutely loved it. And then she was breech, so I had to have a C-section.
Oh God. Well, this is it. This is the thing, right? Like, I always say that. I'm like, you can't have a birth plan. No. You just can't, because I'm a bit opposite to you. I was opposite to you. I was like, yeah, I don't care. Get me in hospital. Get me all the drugs.
Yeah.
And then it actually turned out she was so fast that I ended up having a water birth.
Yeah.
So then second time around I did that because I did love it. So I think, the hypnobirthing and more natural is, it is lovely if you can have the option. Yeah.
And I think because I was so set on it, I actually struggled mentally after her birth.
I really.
Because, well, I feel like with C-sections, I found it easy because I've had a home birth, and I found it easier to heal from a C-section, but mentally I found it harder. Like, I struggled with it, because I remember holding Maya and thinking that she was her cousin, which is really weird. Yeah, like I had like a disconnect for like I'd say a couple of days.
What do you think that was?
I don't know what it was. So I remember literally, and that was his brother that passed, this little girl. And I remember holding her, and she just didn't feel like mine. I literally felt like she looks like and was like my niece. Yeah. When I was holding her, it was really weird. And I don't know whether that was because with C-sections, obviously, you don't have that build-up of hormones. So I don't know whether my hormones she's just 1 minute in there and the next minute she's out. So the build-up of hormones because if you think when you're in labour with the labour, it is your hormones are releasing, you've got the oxytocin going, you've got everything going through, whereas obviously with a C-section you are kind of just in and out. Do you know
But
what I
didn't
mean?
you get, was it an emergency C-section?
No, she was elective, so there was no labour at all.
Okay, so they had, so you, right, okay.
Yeah, because
cool.
she was
So
breech.
yeah.
She literally, I just
Right.
went in. It was like a day patient, just popped
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
It was really nice. Like the experience was really nice, but it was just mentally after. I think where I wanted something so much.
Yeah.
And then like this was the opposite. And at the time, sorry, I like to talk. At the time,
That's why I brought you in here. I'll talk away.
At the time, it was remember when Frenchies and Bulldogs were like rife?
Yeah.
So obviously I'm a vet nurse.
Yeah.
And we had probably like Bulldog cesareans and Frenchie cesareans like multiple times a week because they can't give birth naturally.
Right.
And I remember laying there thinking, I'm a bulldog. Because I know exactly what goes on and I'm watching the surgeons do exactly what we do. And I'm a bulldog. You know,
So
there's no emotion really.
It was probably a mix of everything, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then? So you're mentally thinking about, you know, your family member that's just passed, your cousin, you're thinking about the Bulldogs having
honestly. So there was no like emotional.
But equally, especially I feel like with your first, it is so easy to be like, what the fuck has just happened? Like, is this my baby? Like, what? Like, it is easy to kind of think like, this can't be real. Like, I get it. And obviously hormone, you know, you're all over the place, but obviously, like you said, you breastfed. So like, I mean, that's great because I never did that. And I think there's no right or wrong thing.
No, of
but
course not.
do you feel like that kind of gave you that connection afterwards though?
I did. And I just loved breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Like, I just loved it. Like with Maya, where it was my first time, it was like, I was just so excited about all of it, which was really weird. With my second one, I was kind of just like, okay, just chuck him on. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
really...
you are with the second all the time, aren't you?
But the first, it was just like, it was a nice experience.
Yeah, and then obviously second time round, did you have to have another C-section? Or?
No, so I went against the grain. So I had a home birth after cesarean.
Wow.
Which I had amazing midwives and they was all up for it, but consultants are very like, you could die, basically like very strict with their numbers. And they kept saying to me, there's a 2% chance that your uterine scar can rupture. And I was like, you're saying that, but it's actually a 98% chance it won't. Yeah. And that's how I was looking at it. I was like, I know it's a 2% chance and obviously terrifying if that happens. And like, I feel like you'll know when it happens anyway.
Yeah.
As long as you know what to look out for. But also, if you flip it around, like in my head, I was like, but that's a 98% chance it won't.
Yeah,
so
but I feel like they have to say it to cover themselves, really, don't they? But oh my God, that is so. How was the home birth?
So, it went on for quite a while. It was 36 hours. My birth with Fred, and I was one of the people that gives birth at night. So. In the daytime, it really, like, the contractions nearly disappeared. Like, there was, like, every half hour. And as soon as it started going dark...
When you needed to sleep.
They ramped up again. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
They ramped up again. I was exhausted. If I was in hospital, I 100% would have been told to have a C-section. Like, 100%.
Really?
Yeah, because they would never have let it go
like,
that long.
I'm not a bulldog. Yeah. I refuse. I'm not going to do it.
So then, and then we had that evening that I gave... Oh, the first evening I gave... Like, the first evening, because it was 2 evenings.
Yeah.
I had my hypnotherapy teacher on call. Like, she was actually the nurse that come out, like not on purpose.
Right.
And I remember saying to her, because I was like really struggling with the pain, I realised I got quite a low pain threshold. I was really struggling.
No, I think giving birth is I don't think anyone's got the pain threshold for that, and especially if you're not taking anything for it like that. You probably have a really high pain threshold if you could endure that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was, and I remember saying to her, and I was like, oh, do you think I need to go to hospital? Because I was like struggling. I was like, maybe I should just get an epidural. And she was so good. She was like, Ella, what did you always want? And I was like, this. And she was like, you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like, just believe in yourself. You can do this. And then I'm so glad she was there, because I think I would have just gone in if it was anyone else.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, it's fine. But I just really wanted it.
Yeah.
I found the experience, I loved the experience, but then my mum and Tom have a very different experience of it, because they just didn't believe that I was going to give birth at that point. You know, when you're like, I was mooing, you know, like you did the moo, and I was literally like, he is coming. And they was like, no, it's all right. Like, they were so chilled. And my mum was literally like, can we check her? Because I think that he's coming. Like, this is like 36 hours in.
You know,
and I was like,
you know.
I was like, and I said to her, you need to check my bum because my intestines have come out. And she was like, what? I was like, you know, like when you're in dysphoria, I was like, you need to check my bum, but you should, you know, he was going down the canal, and I could
it's
feel
that pushing
it,
sensation.
and I thought that there. So she's like, what? So she got the torch. She's like, no, there's no intestines, and then she was like, oh, actually, and she was like, quick, get towels all warmed up. So my mum and Tom, like, and my dad had to get out of bed because we was at my mum's because it was lockdown.
Oh my God.
He had to get out of bed, go put all the towels in. Tom's like panicking, like my mum's like, well, what are we gonna do? Because she's so dramatic as well.
Yeah.
And then literally he just come out with just one push, like there was no pushing stage. You know, like normally you have to like break. He literally was like ready. He literally come out. So Tom and my mum do have different feel of it. I just look at it thinking, oh, how lovely, I got to like sit in my mum's house, and they're like, no, never again.
No, but do you know what I feel like when you're actually giving birth, it's like you're in your own world, you're in your own, it's like you've zoned into like no one's barely around. That's what I found. I felt like no one was around me, so your perception of how it went is different to the manic around you.
It's so manic,
especially if it was a home birth. Like,
it was quite manic. And also the biggest part that I forgot to say is I ran out of gas and air just as I was giving birth.
Oh my God.
So I literally had a panic attack. So the midwife was in my face. She was like, "You need to calm down," because obviously I was focusing on the gas and air. It wasn't doing anything, but in my head, I was counting my breaths with it.
Yes.
And then when that was gone, I was literally like panic. Yeah. So I do understand where my mum and dad, like my mum and Tom, come from.
So now you're like, and it was like as he's coming as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh my God. So how did you find when he was, sorry, is it Fred?
Yeah, Fred.
How did you find it when Fred was born? Was it similar to your girl? Like, did you feel like you had a disconnect, or was it a bit more?
I think with Fred, I definitely got that emotion straight away. I didn't have that like what I did with Maya. But recovery-wise, I definitely recovered easier and quicker with a C-section than I did with Fred, because they missed a tear. They said everything was fine. And then, this is going to be really graphic, by the way. I hope you enjoy this.
No.
This
is why I ask about the birth stories, because I need to hear.
And I had to go back to the hospital, and because she was like, "Oh, your stitches have all healed," and I was like the midwife, and I was like, "What stitches?" She was like, "Your stitches," and I was like, "I didn't have stitches." When I looked, my hole was about that big, like, and I was like crying to my mum, like, "I'm never gonna be able to have sex again."
Yeah.
And my mum was like, "It's all right."
No, so they missed.
So they missed it. So what happened was it had healed to this, like, just found a part of skin and just healed, and obviously made the hole like that big. And I was literally like, "That's not what it looks like." And she was like, "Okay, you need to go to the hospital." And then this is where I feel like women's health is just a bit of a joke. So I'm laying there, and I've got the consultant come in, who was a consultant, first of all, that like mugged me off when I said I wanted a home birth, and I was like, haha, I had it. So she come in, and then she literally, I'm just laying there, put her finger into my hole and ripped. Without telling me, I screamed.
Oh.
What the hell?
No.
I screamed, and she went, "Oh, maybe we should put some local on that." I went, "Maybe."
Hold on.
I wouldn't even treat a dog like that at work. Like,
oh my God.
Imagine a man like going in and then being like, just doing that. They would never ever do that to a man, would they? Ever. I'm not having it. They would never. They'd be like, "Sir, would you like some?" Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it would be like,
oh no.
Honestly, it was. So yeah, that was
Ella,
quite traumatic.
that is so bad.
It was so bad. I should have actually reported that, but I didn't. Because you know, like, you're in.
Well, you're in disbelief, and you're probably thinking, did that actually
just happen?
You probably only just processed it.
Honestly, it was so bad. And this is all COVID times as well. So like, Freddie weren't allowed to come in with me, and I was like crying, thinking, how long am I going to be in here for? Because I had like a 10-day-old baby that was breastfeeding, but it all worked out fine. But it was. So I actually found electives different to emergencies. I know emergencies are really hard because they just literally rip you open to get the baby out. But with the elective, it was actually a lot quicker, I'd say, like, to recover.
Yeah.
And
it's just hard, isn't it? Because I always say, like, they never ever they'll teach you about, like, they'll get you ready for the birth, they'll get you ready for, you know, the lead up and everything else, but it's like once you have the baby, you're on your own.
Oh yeah.
And it's like once you it's almost like, right, you know what you're doing now, especially with your first, you're like, I actually have no clue. Or if you've had a second baby that's completely different, and that is mad. Bless you, babe. That's a lot. So you and your husband, you got married with your two kids there. That must have been lovely. So how long have you been together?
We've been together since I was 18. What am I now? 32. Don't ask me to do the maths. What is that? Like, I'm like the man in the relationship.
No, I know. Yeah, 20.
Long enough.
10, 20,
longer than a life sentence.
24.
That's what I know.
24. No, you're 32.
Yeah, so like 12, 13 years.
13 years. 13 years, yeah.
God, that was hard to Essex girls trying to work that out, wasn't it? Bloody
Two
hell.
Essex girls and a man. Honestly, do you know what though? So obviously with your Instagram as well, like you're quite real, you're quite light-hearted and you keep it quite funny as well. Like you obviously are like a funny person, but you are also quite open about your experience with like domestic violence and things like that. And I think it's important, especially when you have a platform like that, and it's really, I mean, honourable for you to open up about things like that, because it's great being relatable about mum life, but if you've got other stuff going on that people can relate to as well and actually not feel alone on, like that's amazing. So like when did you experience that in your life?
So I think that's why I am quite a funny person, because of trauma. They say this. They say you've had trauma. And I do, like, I struggle with being serious. Like, someone will tell me someone's died in their family and I'll be there for them for like 2 minutes and I'll make a joke. Do you know what I mean? Like and it's not like out of like, obviously, like, it's not out of like, oh, she has to make a joke of everything. It's because I can't deal with too much seriousness. Like I just don't know what it is. I just can't deal with it. I'm in therapy at the moment. I think that's the topic I need to bring up. So literally just can't deal with it. So because I was in a domestic violence when I was 17, a relationship for a year. I ended up moving out and living with him and his mum, who, like, she was obviously scared of him because she just let him beat me, basically. Which is crazy as a mum. Do you know what I mean? Like, I look back now and I think, I know you love your kids, but maybe because I've been through it, but there is no way I would let my son like under my roof. I would be telling them to leave. Do you know what I mean?
Do you reckon that was because he, or maybe she'd experienced it and
she did it, so he's done it to her. And she, like, they're manipulative, so they'll even manipulate the people around them. So obviously he manipulated his mum. And I think she was probably just scared of him, to be honest. But it is hard to look now as a mum, like, I can't think of anything worse than my son being like that. I'm sure he won't be like that. So it was when I was 17, and it was like about a year, so it wasn't even that long, but it just all happened so quickly. Like, it started off with like a poke, which sounds so weird, but I think when you get desensitized and eased into it, obviously if he punched me straight away, I would have been like, oh no, and I would have just left. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I think where it was so like calculated, like, it started off with like poking in anger, which is so weird, and then like pinching and slapping, like it was like at each stage, and then each time it would happen they'd say it was your fault, so then you actually believe that, okay, that was my fault. So by the time you get to the full-on abuse, like, obviously it's all abuse, but when you get to like the big ones, you still think it's your fault. It's so weird. It's so
like,
weird.
It's like a manipulation as well. It's like a mental, you're trapped in the thing. And would he be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and then and then you'd be like, oh, well, he's sorry, so I'll forgive him, type thing.
And I think with it as well is, it's such a, like, when you are in love, it's so high, so it's like abnormally high, because when I first got with Tom after, I used to find it very leveled, and I was like, this is weird, like, because I wasn't used to a relationship where it wasn't that massive high then a massive low. So I did, this is the weirdest thing to say, I did miss that abuse feeling for years. It was really odd, but that's how it makes you think.
I can imagine as well, because you were so young, and it's probably your first experience, or one of your first experience in a serious relationship, in quotation marks. It's like, it's sad that happened to you at such a young age, because then it's like an expectation of this is the norm. And so he would just lash out, he had a temper, like, I can't even imagine what you might have done.
Well, it was all like for like, this is like an example, it was Britain's Got Talent was on, and this is so ridiculous, there was like a gymnastics group, I can't remember what they was called now, like they was quite big. Anyway, we was around like one of his friends, like his people that he knows and stuff, because obviously we weren't anywhere near mine, and we were just watching like Britain's Got Talent, and I can feel him like looking at me when this act was on, because I'm looking at it and I'm like looking at him, and he's like, don't look at the telly, and I'm like, what? Like,
At his friend's house?
At his friend's house, because I'm looking at half-naked men on the telly that
You
are
are
doing acrobats.
joking.
Honestly, it's mental.
Wow. And he's whispered that to you?
Yeah, he's like whispered that to me. So I'm like, it's so awkward. Like, what do you do? Like, everyone's sitting around the sofa. So I'm like trying not to look. But then obviously I am going to look sometimes because we're watching telly. Like, and they're on for like 5 minutes.
And also, it's just an amazing act.
Yeah, like it's like, yeah. So then like absolutely fuming. Like we left early, like literally like near enough after that. And like, that would be like, that's a trigger. Like he's so insecure, obviously. I was like,
of course, yeah, that's what it is.
Abnormally. And then that would be like a trigger because I watched on Britain's Got Talent a half-naked man doing acrobats. Like,
and when he'd hit you for
yeah,
that.
like for that, yeah. Because he was absolutely fuming that I even done it.
Did you ever open up to your mum about it, or were you always scared?
Not when I was with him.
Yeah.
I used to, like, she used to know. Like, she would be like, you've got bruises everywhere. Like, and I'd be like, oh, I used to say I was from rough sex, like, because obviously I was like 7, like, you know, like that.
I love how open you were open about telling it was rough sex. Oh, it's okay.
I'd rather it be rough sex than hit me. Like, do you know, like in that moment, I'd rather my mum think that I'd had rough sex than like
was
abuse.
that because at the time you were so in love with him and it's like a manipulation, like mentally, and you was like, if I tell my mum, she's going to make me leave him?
Yeah, I don't think it was that. I think it was more the fact that I believed that it was my fault. Again, so then I was like, I didn't want him to get the blame because I was like, it's my fault anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't actually think I was in love with him. I think it was more like of like a
infatuated,
yeah,
like young love,
like when I've had love after with Tom, like obviously that's normal, stable love, like proper love, not an abusive, like just chaos. You know, like every day was chaos. Like, I was still going to work, and I used to get the bus to work. So I was 17, I didn't drive yet.
Yeah.
I was getting the bus to work. This is when I was living with him, and he used to text me and say to me, "This is wild." So I look back now and I actually laugh because I'm like, I can't believe I actually let someone do that to me. And he used to text me like the whole journey and be like, "Do not lift your head. I'm driving behind the bus." He weren't like, "Don't lift your head up." So I used to sit on the bus like this until I heard my stop. It's like.
Wow.
And like what I just find weird is like, can you imagine that happening to me now? I'm
you'd
quite,
be like, fuck off,
I
yeah.
can't believe that it actually happened.
I can't even imagine. Like, I can imagine though when you eventually did. I mean, how did you get out of that relationship in the end? Did you just finally wake up and be like,
yeah? So there's always a trigger of when you finally, because I'd left a couple of times and gone back, and like at this point I was living with him because my mum and dad gave me an ultimatum. They was like, you either need to leave him or you need to go because we can't watch you do this, which was I actually think was the best thing they could have done.
Yeah,
because I feel like if it would have gone on for years, I reckon.
Like you said, like as a mum, your mum must have been like, how do I deal with this?
My mum put on so much weight, I remember, and my dad lost so much weight because you know, like when the emotional things, my dad stopped eating and my mum couldn't stop eating. Like I remember seeing him when we broke up. I was like, they look so different, like because pure stress. She used to ring my work every day, make sure I got into work okay, ask if there was any bruises, because obviously she weren't talking to me. Like she loves me. Like it's so.
Oh, that must have been so hard. So it didn't just affect you; it affected your whole family.
Oh god, yeah. Like all my siblings. Like I remember my brother done a like a PowerPoint on why I needed to leave him, and he was only like 12 at the time or 13.
Wow.
It was That's what I feel guilty about. Like.
Yeah, but you can't feel guilty for that because it wasn't your fault, and I think you've obviously, you hopefully all dealt with it. But I feel like it's so sad because you probably then, once you got away from that, it's like you said, like when you was, met your husband now, it's like all them things. It's probably like, are you not going to get annoyed at me for that?
Yeah.
Or like you still, I bet that still lingers in you to this day.
Well, to this day, like if me and Tom have a row, I'll think he's going to leave. And like, it's just like a normal row. But for some reason, every single time, we don't even row a lot. But when we do like have a proper row, which every couple does.
Of course.
Like normal. I've got this like abandonment. It's really weird. Like I've got this thing, I'm like, oh, that's it. It's finished. Like, it's literally like, we're fine 3 hours later. Do you know what I mean? But like, in my head, I've like planned, I've gone through everything in my head. I'm like, how am I going to pay the bills?
Yeah. Oh my God, I need to get on Right Move and start looking at flats. Yeah.
And literally after a couple of hours. So I think that stems from it. But then I also had like, I think this is the reason I ended up in that situation was I did grow up. My dad was an alcoholic when I grew up. So he stopped drinking when I was 13. Yeah. So obviously I have actually had a fair amount of trauma pre-domestic abuse. Yeah. So then after, bless him, he hasn't drunk since I was 13. He's amazing. He's got his own charity. Like, and I always feel awkward talking about it because I don't want him to ever feel bad.
I feel like the thing is everyone's got their thing, haven't they? And it's about learning from it and, you don't know what triggered him. I mean, you might do, but it's like you don't know people's stories as to why.
There's always something big that happens with things like that.
Exactly. But you got out of it, thank God.
Yes.
And I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's even like when you're younger and you're in a relationship and you don't want to leave him because it's going to break their heart. I bet you were like, I don't want to leave him because he might beat me black and blue.
Well, no, he used to threaten my family, so he used to say he was going to kill my parents. So there was a couple of times when I did leave, like he actually kidnapped me once. It's actually crazy. He actually like was outside my house and I had broken up with him, and he was like, he pulled up outside. I remember my dad was at the conservatory door, and he was like, get in the car, and like I remember my dad, like it's like a film, like he like turned around and he was like, and as he like looked and he went, I'll kill your dad now if you don't get in the car. And I just got in the car because I was just so scared. And then that was like, I ended up getting back with him after that. Because he just like, he just drove like a lunatic, I remember, for like an hour while punching me. Like, and I remember we pulled up to a petrol station because he had to get petrol. And I was thinking, I could probably get away now. But I was just too scared. Like, I could have easily got out and just gone into the petrol garage.
He could have killed you. He could have ended up killing you.
Oh, they say that there's, because I have like, Leia, she does like a domestic abuse charity sort of thing, and she said a statistic to me, which is you're 7 times more likely to be murdered by your abusive partner if they strangle you. And he used to strangle me because they'd go too far, and obviously with it's asphyxiation, that's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
They don't realise they've gone too far
because their rage takes over.
Because their rage is just like,
and then it's so sad.
So I probably would have ended up dead.
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
But we didn't.
But you didn't.
We survived.
You know, you've survived that. And I think, like you said, it's amazing that you can be open about it and talk about it, which has probably taken you a while. And and I think, like you said, like there's probably people out there that are experiencing it, and there's so many places you can turn to now. However, and I think it's easy to say, oh, you know, if you are experiencing that, go and speak to someone. But you can probably relate in the sense that it's scary to speak to someone because it's worrying.
And they say that majority of murders from partners is when the person leaves. So it isn't actually just as easy as just leave.
Yeah.
You really have to be careful, like if anyone is listening, because that is what their trigger point, because they're losing everything that they've controlled.
Yeah.
So that can be the trigger of when they go too far. But on the flip side of that, there are a lot of people, like a lot of charities that can help. There's safe houses. There is a lot of help out there. But it's a lot, especially when people have children, because then they're in their lives forever.
Yeah,
so hard.
Yeah. You just got to be thankful that you did eventually meet an amazing man.
Yes.
And you've got your 2 beautiful baby. Oh yeah, but honestly, I don't know. I feel like it's like a cycle of marriage, isn't it? It's like they have their myriads as well. I always say that, and it's like 1 week of the month where I'm like, right, I'm getting the divorce papers out.
Yeah, and then the next week I'm like, oh, I love him so much.
My best friend. Yeah. I'll be so lucky. Yeah, honestly, that is normal marriage, isn't it? To a T.
That is normal.
So obviously you've got your babies now. You've got, sounds like a really exciting year ahead of you, which is amazing. It's a big step to take, but I think it's like I know you're going to do amazing with that. And you, so sorry, I want to keep it light-hearted, but you mentioned that you're doing the therapy thing now. So do you think it's just like a mixture of like, is that just like your kind of what you've been through with, you know, when you had your birth and then stuff with the domestic violence and stuff? Is it just like a mixture of things?
Yeah, it's like, kind of, I signed up to it last year, but obviously with the waiting list, it's quite a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was feeling rubbish, and I was like I've never done antidepressants or medication, just because I probably should have at some points after like having, because I had postnatal depression with Freddie.
Yeah.
I probably should have then, but in my head I was like this feeling of like, if I didn't need it to get over an abusive ex, but I probably did need it.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I going to do it now? So I just always kind of never done it.
And I feel it's like in our generation, it's kind of like just get on with it.
Yeah. And like, but I look back now and I'm like, it probably would have helped so much because I speak to people about it. But I signed up last year because I was feeling pretty rubbish towards the end of last year, and then like springtime, just, you know, like you just do get your lows.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe it will help, mainly because I can be a shouty mum and it makes me feel like shit after.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to try and curb that, to stop myself from blowing so quickly, like my fuse.
Yeah.
by the time I got signed up to got into it, I felt better. But she did say, because I did say that to her, I was very honest. I was like, I do feel like I don't need it at the moment. And she was like, yeah, but this is the best time to do it because you're going to take everything on board. So then when you do get to that point again at low, then you can use what you're learning. So it started off as CBT. I'm only on my 3rd session this week. And then she's like, actually, I think you've got some rooted problems here.
Yeah,
So it's kind of going into my childhood and certain situations that probably childhood more than domestic violence because I've done a lot with my domestic violence background, whereas I've never really gone into my childhood. So I think because that was such a big part of the whole domestic violence, it just took over. So I think actually there's quite a lot of things triggers that I get that stem from when I was a kid, and that's what they do say. They say normally these things are what happens from. She told me between the ages of 6 and 13 is when you're most impressionable to life, and it changes. It makes you who you are and who you think about yourself.
Isn't that scary then when you think about with our kids?
So they're just going into it now, and I'm like, everything I do, I'm like, don't give them trauma. And that was when my dad was an alcoholic till I was 13, so I feel like a lot of my stuff started around that time.
I'm probably similar to you. I use a lot of humour and be like, kind of, and I think I'm always scared to open that gate. I don't want to. It's like, you know, when you've locked stuff away and you don't want to think about it, and you think if I go into therapy and I open up that gate, then it's like, oh, but really it's probably a good thing to do it. And if you do actually get to that point, it's like it will hopefully be so beneficial for you as well. The shouty mum thing, I mean, I think we're all guilty of it. It's like,
I know.
It's always like at the end of the night when they've actually fallen asleep and you've battered them down for 3 hours, you're like, oh my God,
awful. I'm gonna give them trauma.
And then you get up in the morning, it's like, you little shit. So it is just like, that is very everyday mum stuff. But no, I think you're obviously, have you got plans for 3 or are you done with 2 kids now?
I'm done. I'm done. If you see an announcement, no, there was a lot of emotions behind that because it would not be a bit no.
I
think Tom would probably leave me then as well.
I know, that's what I always say. Honestly, I don't think I would survive. I don't think our marriage
You've got
would survive.
3 already, so I feel
No, I've got 2. I've got 2.
You've got 3.
No, I've got. Oh God. Do you know what? It's so weird that you say that though.
Yeah.
Because I've got my little girl. Well, my 3rd is my husband. I've got my little girl she's 6, and then I've got my 3-year-old girl.
Right.
So I've got 2 girls.
So that's very similar then.
But do you know what? I was thinking, because I've put not consciously, but obviously gradually taken them kind of less and less off my Instagram.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously you took, so that's probably why people were like, oh, how many kids have you actually got? And now I'm more focused on just the mum thing. I'm a mum, but it doesn't mean I have to have my kids on there. Just kind of more so as they're getting older as well, I think.
Oh, yeah, well, I've taken them off, haven't I?
But yeah, that's what I was going to say to you. And I think I do understand that. And I think there's, it's everyone's discretion, isn't it?
Yeah.
But did you feel like as your following got more, it was a bit more you wanted to kind of keep that?
I started seeing really horrible stuff. And there was a girl that followed me actually, and she used to send me things because she used to say to me, you should not put your kids on Instagram. We've got mutual friends, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at first I thought, oh, go away, just being a bit too much.
It's my Instagram, if I want to do it.
She'd if I put a certain picture on, she'd be like, you shouldn't do that because they can edit it. And I was like, then I'll take it down and be anxious. And then when I actually looked into what she was saying, she sent me some bits, I was like, no, I can't. Because they basically edit, especially with AI and stuff, they can edit children into porn, basically, which is horrendous. Imagine seeing that. It's
especially now with the AI stuff.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah. And even just they can, because obviously I do still share them, but I share with their faces covered.
Yeah.
And I'm very mindful on what I share. But they can edit voices as well, and obviously I do still have their voices sometimes in them. There was someone recently who literally they used her kid's voice from social media, pretended that she'd been kidnapped, and sent her a voicemail having to send them money to get her back. And then when she finally spoke to her daughter, the daughter was like, no, fine. That's that's what I mean. It's
because there are really evil people out there as well.
Yeah, absolute sickos. And that's the other thing as well. I feel as I was getting bigger, I can't monitor who's following me. Imagine out of 100,000 people, there's got to be a decent amount of pedos in there. I'm terrible. But
do you know what? I agree. And the thing is, I always had my Instagram, and I was like, oh, it's only mums that follow me. And I think as you get older, but obviously I went on The Apprentice as well, and I got like a new
following,
male following as well, which was so odd to me. I still go on my stories and I'm like, hi mamas, and chat to the mums, and I really make sure that's like my focus. But yeah, like you get the creeps that will come into your inbox. You don't know who they are, you don't know who's following you, and as much as it's an amazing place because you're creating this platform so that you can eventually give your children a better life, but I do think I've learned that you don't need to have your children on your platform to be a relatable mum, and it is discretionary, and it's like, everyone is different, but I just feel like I can relate with that more and more now, and I think I've done it subconsciously, like just without even realising. I'm like, this is more about me as a mum rather than my kids. Yeah, definitely. And it's a scary place, but amazing opportunities at the same time.
Yeah. Did you ever think like, if I don't put them on, will people like the page? Because I used to have them thoughts, because I thought about it for a few months before I actually stopped, and I used to think, they've always been on here, what if I'm not enough? Like, that's that whole feeling that if I'm not enough, but I just think if anyone, because this is when I did do it, I had a couple of people message me saying I won't be following now, and I just thought, I find it weird actually that you'd have to follow me for my kids. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I actually think it's weird that you would have to have someone's child's faces. Like, you're still speaking about everything and they're still there. Yeah. But like, why would you need to see them? Do you know what I mean?
I remember it so clearly. I remember when, and I think a lot of mums do actually suffer with this. So when I started even when I first had kids, like when they were babies, and I could never have a picture on my own. I'd feel weird having a picture without my kids in it. Yeah. Or I was so used to having the baby or my little ones. And like, even when I started posting more on my Instagram, just like pictures of me on my own, gave myself the ick a bit. Like, I was like, oh no, I can't do it. I was like, I need my kids in the picture to like, it's like a comfort blanket almost. And I think like a lot of mums do go through that, and you do grow out of it. I think only last year really, I feel like I've actually half got myself fully back now. I don't think you ever,
like, takes ages, isn't it?
I don't think you ever naturally do. You change as a person, but I agree, like, it is one of them things. It's like, it's a mummy, like, people want to see your kids, and people follow you all them years and watch your kids grow up. It's like they want to see that, don't they? But it's just, it's a dangerous place, and it's just so much to it, isn't it? So even things with like YouTube and all that, it's scary. But I think what you've done is it's what you want to do. It's your page, and if people like it, they don't. And at the end of the day, they come to your page for the boo bitch anyway.
Exactly. So you know.
Exactly. But do you know what? I feel like I could talk to you for bloody ages. Honestly, we'll have to go and have a separate coffee. So plans this year, you've got just taking it as it comes, lots of exciting things, your podcast.
No, I have got
and
lots
everything.
of exciting things. Yeah. I signed with a new agency in August last year. So like, for people that aren't in the field, you have an agency. Like, not everyone does, but you have an agent, and then they basically, like, if you're working in the West End, they like, they get you jobs, sort of thing. Of
course, yeah.
It's literally the same
manage it for you.
Manage it for you. Yeah. So I got a new agency in August, and they just have been incredible, to be honest.
For people that don't already follow you, what your Instagram is?
Crazy New Mumma.
Crazy New Mumma. So if you're into just real mum life and just having a laugh, and but also, like I said, like, you shed so much light on so many different things as well. You can be serious when you want to be.
I can be, yeah.
It's good. It
takes a lot.
But it has, honestly, it's been so nice having you on, and it went really quick. I'm excited to see your podcast with your mum.
Yeah, no, she should be funny. I have to sort that out this year. I've been trying to sort it out about a year, but I'm just quite laid back.
Just get her on the sofa and do it from home. Done.
So, it's easy.
Give her a glass of wine and you're done. That's the best time. Yeah.
Well, Tipple's vodka and Diet Coke.
Well, there you go then. You know her Tipple, so you just get her piss, and then you get some great episodes out of that.
I'll be editing everything she says. She's a nightmare.
Well, it's so nice having you on, Ella. Thank you so much.
Thank you.